Arianna, I was curious. I read something that you said that I loved, and I'm going to read it. But it said that you always take an hour to meditate or do yoga, and when you're really busy, you try to take 2 hours.
Well, actually, this is something that, in a different form, William Gladstone said when he was Prime Minister of England many decades ago. He said, "I pray every day for 1 hour, except when I'm very busy, when I pray for 2." And the point he was making, whether we use prayer or meditation, is that the busier we are, the more we need that centering time, that time to actually be able to connect with our own inner wisdom, strength, and peace, and from that place be much more effective at what we're doing. The point here is that there is no trade-off between performance. Everybody here works, has big jobs, stressful jobs. There's no trade-off between doing that well and actually tapping into that place of peace and strength and wisdom.
But it's so difficult, right? Because we all live busy lives. The two of you have extraordinarily high-powered jobs, family obligations. I don't have to tell you, we all know it. And Patricia, I'm curious. I mean, you operated in government. You've done a lot of these kinds of demanding jobs. How do you, as Bob says, turn off the gotta, which I've got right now, but how do you turn it off and find the time to do it?
Well, when I started focusing, as Arianna has, on women in leadership for a long time, we're always told to do one thing or the other: lean in, lean out, go to sleep, work harder. And I realized, while a lot of this is great advice, that we're not doing anything for ourselves. We're plugging in our iPhones, but we're not plugging in that internal sort of power, and we're throwing away our power. We're getting distracted, much like Ulysses, and the sirens winding up on the rocks. I'm not going to use any more of those metaphors. But the important thing for me is, in every new job I've had, every new position, like many of you here, the first thing is, how am I going to do this? And I'll be honest with you, I don't know anything about this, but somehow I'm here and doing this job. And in order to do it, in order to tap into your innate leadership abilities, you really have to have that sort of that check in your personal bank. And that's what meditation does. No matter what the situation, I sleep every single night. I'm afraid of saying that because tonight,
yeah, exactly.
But I really do. I do. And it just infuses you with so much energy. Someone said to me, though, if you have any more energy, you'll be even more obnoxious. But it is something you really have to give it a try. And let me just say one thing.
Yeah.
I really thought I was the person who would never, ever meditate. I know Arianna a long time. And I thought, this is something for other people who have that calm gene. I'm Italian, I'm from Brooklyn, we don't do calm. And because of the David Lynch Foundation and the wonderful people there, I realized that everyone has this. Now let me just say one thing. I thought I had to have everything set up, like this spiritual corner with a plant and a candle. And I was sitting when I first started, and I sat down to do it, and my husband comes clumping up the steps at home. And I said, I'm meditating here. I'm not doing that anymore.
That's great. I think what you said about technology, though, is so key, how we've all become better at taking care of our smartphones than taking care of ourselves. I bet practically everybody here knows approximately how much battery remains on your smartphone. And if it gets below 13%, you get anxious and, you look around for a recharging shrine. Well, in a way, I see meditation as my way to recharge that battery and to become better and better at seeing the warning signs when that battery is not recharged. Because, of course, I wasn't always good at that. In fact, I was terrible at that. 8 years ago, I collapsed from sleep deprivation and burnout. And yet, if you had asked me that morning, how are you, I would have said fine. Because being exhausted and being burnt out has become the new normal. But I'm so glad this is primarily women and a few enlightened men, because I really think women will be leading this revolution together with you, Bob, of course. And I think one of the reasons is that the latest research shows that we women are suffering more from stress. Like, it takes a greater toll on our health. Women in stressful jobs, and I'm sure that's everybody in the ballroom and on the stage, have a 40% greater risk of heart disease and a 60% greater risk of diabetes. So ladies, we can't afford to do it the way men have been doing it for decades. We have to do it differently. We have to change it for everybody, and men will be incredibly grateful to us. But the good news here is that I was reading today that many more men than women are buying the Apple Watch. And I think this is a good sign, because the Apple Watch is just a manifestation of everything we're talking about. The constant distractions, the constant buzzing notifications, every time you get an email or a text. And women, I mean, if you look at another study that came out, which I love, from Harvard, they put women by themselves and men by themselves in a room, and they gave them the choice of sitting quiet, they told them 15 minutes, not 20 minutes, without any distractions, no phones, no devices, nothing, or getting electric shock.
Is that true?
And 67% of men chose electric shock. And the superior sex, women, 25% chose electric shock. But that shows you how disconnected we have become from the ability to just be silent, be quiet, connect with that place in us that Patricia's been talking about.
Well, the connected technologies, interestingly, right, they were supposed to be the solution. They were supposed to help, and they've caused so many problems in how you deal with this and how you balance it. But of course, that's a topic, a whole separate topic. But I'm curious from both of you that, Arianna, you wrote a book called Thrive, one of your many books that you have written, where you really start to talk about redefining success. And that takes into account this third metric. Can you talk a little bit about what that third metric is? And both of you, how do we need to redefine success?
Well, my beginning of this redefinition actually started when I came to, in my own pool of blood, on the floor of my office, having broken my cheekbone when I fell.
That'll do it.
That will do it. And I had to literally ask myself, is this what success is? Because while by conventional definitions are successful, can we all agree that by any sane definition, if you come to in your pool of blood and nobody has shot you, you are not successful? So I realized that our definition of success had shrunken down to these two metrics of money and power, which is like trying to sit on a two-legged stool. And the third metric, which includes our well-being, wisdom, wonder, and giving, had really not been part of our lives. And for me, meditating is one of the most direct ways, as well as sleep, of course, to reconnect with that. And just one more thing, as parents, I feel the greatest gift we can give to our children is something that will help them cope through whatever challenges face them, even after we're no longer here. And for me, there is nothing like that tool of being able to reconnect with your own source of strength.
So, Patricia, same kind of question to you but how do you incorporate meditation into your life, given the demands that are coming at you constantly? How do you do that? I mean, you said you're not there, you weren't defined that way, you weren't born that way. You
No,
work at it.
definitely not. But I remember a couple of years ago, I wrote a book, A Seat at the Table. And there was a quote from Lily Tomlin who said, you know, even if you win the rat race, you're still a rat. I thought about that, and you really want to be in a rat race. And the other part, which goes way back, as I said, when I was graduating from PS 99 in Brooklyn, New York, and I was 12, 13, and my teacher wrote in my book, "To thine own self be true." And at that point, I didn't know I had an own self, and I really didn't know what it meant to be true, but it stuck with me. And over the years, I kept coming back to that quote, what does it mean to be true to yourself? And very early on, I wanted to find a way to be successful how I defined it, but without turning into somebody else. No matter where you go, there you are. And you want to enhance who you are, you want to improve in certain ways, but you don't want to be shaped all the time by external forces and being really not in charge of your own ship. So, in terms of meditation, I've been doing, as Bob outlined, different approaches. Mindfulness, I'm not a good candidate for mindfulness. After yoga, didn't work. And that's why I thought I wasn't a candidate for meditation. And it wasn't until doing Transcendental Meditation that it wasn't a question of how do I find the time. It is, you look forward to it. Unlike exercise, which I don't look forward to, you really look forward to it. It's your oasis. It's your life preserver, all the metaphors that you can use. And it strengthens you. And especially, as Arianna said, and I've known Arianna for a long time, and I do have to say, especially since your daughters are here, this is someone who's managed to be extremely successful, but is such a great mom as well. And I remember meeting your sister in
She's
grade.
here too.
Your sister, the whole family is amazing, and your mother as well. So I think you address these things in an authentic way because you want to be authentic in your life. So it's not a question of how do you fit it in. That's the wrong approach. You really, how do you not put it there front and center? Then you fit everything else around it.
All right. On that note, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Patricia Harrison.
Thank you very much.
And Arianna Huffington.
Yes,
no, I'm good.